Supporting this idea, we found that children who were able to stay focused on a task and react less negatively to situations by age 7 reported better general health and fewer illnesses 30 years later. This is through the National Collaboration Perinatal Project and was published in Health Psychology. So what this means in just basically language is, if you can work with your child and help them stay focused on task, whatever it may be they're doing, and then show them that no matter what problems there are, look for the positive lesson in the problem. So they develop a sense that they're still okay, you're still okay, everything's still okay, you will survive this, and learn that they can be resilient. Then as they develop their character and they develop their values and beliefs, they're not going to be afraid of facing problems. They're not going to feel overwhelmed. They're not going to go immediately to depression, overeating, or anger, or self-loathing. They'll have a much healthier self-image, and especially later in life. I'm a big proponent of honey. I believe that honey is one of the most single important healing agents ever. By the way, honey is the only food that will never go bad. Here's the latest on honey from Natural News, and it says the following from Cheryl Walters. For centuries, honey has been known as nature's medicine. Both the Greeks and Egyptians used honey as one of their main healing tools, with the famous Greek thinker Aristotle saying that pale honey was, quote, good as a salve for sore eyes and wounds. But despite its long history within the healing community, honey is now seen as something of a fad, another money-making scam from the natural food industry that actually has no medicinal benefit at all. But there are new studies being conducted that could see us all adding honey to our daily diets. Many of these studies have been aimed at one particular type of honey, Manuka honey. Now, each beehive will produce a different type of honey depending upon which flower the bees get their nectar from. Manuka honey comes from the flower of the Manuka bush, which is native to New Zealand and has been found to have amazing antibacterial properties. Bandages are now being made that contain traces of Manuka honey. Now, this helps stop the growth of harmful bacteria even when wounds are badly infected. And Manuka honey's amazing healing properties come from a chemical reaction that takes place while the honey is being made. This reaction produces hydrogen peroxide, which is well known as an antiseptic. Quote, since Manuka honey is a natural ingredient, it's been found to have no negative side effects when used for medicinal purposes. That's just one study. And also, why Manuka honey aids healing, another type of honey has been found to ease children's colds and soothe their chesty coughs and promote sleep. The Archives of Pediatrics, as well as Adolescent Medicine, recently published the results of a study that confirmed this. The study included 105 children between the ages of 2 and 18. In a partially blinded study, children were given buckwheat honey, some honey-flavored syrup, or nothing. And short surveys filled in between the children's parents showed that when their children were given just a little bit of honey before bed, they slept better, coughed less, and when they took the syrup or nothing at all, didn't have the same effect. So that's important. Now, my thoughts are this, because I actually have beehives and have, since I've been in New York State, I've always had, at the farm upstate, I've had beehives. Used to teach a class for people on the weekends. Many of you attended those up at the old Fertile Earth Farm up in Stone Ridge. And if you remember, I'd go over there in some gym shorts and no shirt and no trousers, no protective gear, and take the slat off and open up, and there'd be about 40 or 50,000 bees. They'd be all over my body, 10 or 15,000 bees, and never got stung. In fact, no one got stung. And then I would show how you extract some honey in the old-fashioned way in a barrel, and by putting the slat into a little frame and then spinning it. And when you spin it, the centrifugal force forced the honey out. always leaving more than enough honey for the bees themselves and taking a little of the extra to use in different tinctures, and also cuts and scratches and any kind of little injury. Always put bee propolis and honey mixed together and put that in. In fact, throughout history, honey has always been a natural. I remember when I bought the farm, one of the first things that I did in the barn is I saw that I was going to insulate it. And when I took out the wood, there were all these old diaries and newspapers, some from the 1800s. And I remember sitting there looking at a diary about one of the people who lived on the ranches in the 1840s, used honey for everything, all kinds of problems. They didn't have insulation back then. In upstate, it was cold in the wintertime. We just don't use it today, and we should. Cup of green tea, teaspoon of honey, raw, unfiltered honey, and it really doesn't matter what type of honey. Tupelo, orange blossom, buckwheat, they're all beneficial. Next up, Harvard Medical School professors are paid big bucks by Big Pharma to push meds, from David Gutierrez, Natural News. And here's what it says. It says, pressure is building on Harvard Medical School to better regulate the massive gifts and consulting fees the faculty members regularly receive from drug companies, with increasing attention being drawn to the great potential of conflict of interest in such relationships. Now, why is this important? Because here's how it works. Let me just give you the short end of this. Let's say that you're wondering, should I get a vaccine at this time? Maybe a flu vaccine. And so you ask your doctor, and your doctor says, of course you should. There was a study published out of Harvard showing that flu vaccine helps a certain amount of people, youngsters, oldsters. And so with confidence, you go ahead and you get a flu vaccine. What's the back end of that story? First, there are no randomized double-blind placebo-controlled studies showing that any vaccine has ever been tested like this. Secondly, there's a high probability that the person writing a favorable article about vaccines, any vaccine, has a financial interest in the vaccine. Therefore, there's immediately a conflict of interest, and that person's credibility, in my opinion, is not just strained, but broken. We have more than enough competent scientists in America. We don't need to have anyone who has a vested interest telling us what to do. So therefore, the companies are able to get their PR firms to place the articles that they have done. They have controlled the studies. They've controlled how to read the results. They have frequently hired ghost writers to come in and work on them. So it's not science at all. It's junk science. And the vast majority of the science published by commercial interests are junk science. Now, let me tie this in with another article, and this is from the British Medical Journal in the Cochrane Vaccine Field study, and here's what it says, quote, flu vaccine studies that are funded by industry are significantly more likely to be published in prestigious journals and to later be cited in the scientific literature than studies without such funding. A good methodology, in contrast, had little impact on such factors. The study also found few studies providing good evidence that the flu vaccine is actually effective. Now let me repeat that. Listen carefully what I'm saying. This is from a major scientific group. That few studies providing good evidence that the flu vaccine is actually effective. So what we're told then is the flu vaccine will protect everyone. There's really no good science to back that up. But if a manufacturer of the flu vaccine wants to get their article published, they can get it published easily in a very prestigious medical journal like New England Journal of Medicine or the Lancet. And then everyone starts citing it as proof. But if you start off with a bad study that doesn't prove anything, and you use it to so-called prove your point, then it's all nonsense. So we have just a lot of people doing a lot of bad things, not realizing it.